Welcome back, everybody. I'm Brian Lee Durfee, author of The Forgetting Moon and The Blackest Heart, both books published by Simon & Schuster's Saga Press. Today, I'm going to be showing you my entire David McCullough nonfiction book collection. You know, after John Krakauer, I think David McCullough might be my next favorite nonfiction writer. He's written some of my favorite biographies and history books. So we're going to go through them. I mean, I've only got like five of, no, there's five, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 7. 7, I count, of his books. One of the great things about David McCullough books is, if you ever want to listen to them on audible.com, the author himself narrates them. And you'll recognize his voice because David McCullough also narrates most every single documentary you've ever watched on PBS. So he has a very good voice for book narration. And I've read and listened to a lot of these on Audible. They're absolutely magnificent. The first one I ever watched, I'll edit that out. The first one I ever read was this one, 1776. This is the book that got me hooked on David McCullough. I think I bought this in the early 2000s and read it. Was just absolutely riveted by it. I've done a review on my channel of this specific book. If you want to just type in my last name, Durfee, and 1776, the review will come right up. I just love everything about this book. It's the book that makes the Revolutionary War make sense on so many levels, not only for the people that wanted to fight the war, but also for the people that did not want to fight the war. And he looks at both perspectives, and it's very interesting. Not only that, but a lot of these people that fought this war just did it for the money. Now, we think that it was the Revolutionary War was what a noble cause. No, most of the people that fought in the war did it because they were poor farmers and they were starving, and the army would pay them and feed them. So it's a very eye-opening book, but also very patriotic because it shows us how George Washington took those sort of mercenaries and really rallied them around the notion of freedom. What a great, great book. The second book that I read, which sealed the deal for me that made me say I'm going to buy every David McCullough book from here on out, was his Pulitzer Prize-winning biography of John Adams. This thing is just a super engrossing, absolutely wonderfully detailed history of the life of John Adams. And it goes just into so much depth about his life in Boston and him helping, Alexander Hamilton and all of the other people with the Declaration of Independence and the Constitution and all that. His friendship with Ben Franklin. All of that stuff is just in here. And if you want to watch the HBO series based off of this, starring Paul Giamatti, who plays John Adams, it is an absolutely fantastic series. I think it's 9 episodes, and each episode is golden. And it really follows the book well, because the book actually follows the man's life. The Great Bridge. I never thought reading a book about the building of the Brooklyn Bridge would be so damn exciting. But it was. I couldn't take my eyes off of this. Just how big of a construction project it was in the year that it was built. And the year that it was built was, well, who the hell knows? 1870-ish. And just to think of how big of I think it was the biggest construction project in the world at the time. And the amount of people that died in accidents during the making of this bridge was absolutely astonishing. It's also a great period piece history of New York City and Manhattan and Brooklyn and all of that stuff from back in the day, and how everything in the country was going at that time. How things in the East this industrial revolution in the East with these big, massive bridges. And then out West, we just had gunslingers and cowboys and all sorts of lawlessness. And just the interplay between. It's just so magnificent. David McCullough also wrote this other history book about the Panama Canal, which another massive, huge construction project that took place in around, God, doesn't even say here. I should have looked this up first, but, maybe around World War I, they built the Panama Canal. I don't know. It's in the book. I haven't read this in probably 17 years, but I do remember really, really liking it. Not quite as much as the Brooklyn Bridge one, but still a dope-ass book. He also wrote The Greater Journey, Americans in Paris. This is about, by the way, if you want to know, I mentioned the audible.com and how he narrates his own voice. And maybe if I show you a picture of him, you'll recognize him because he's on a lot of news programs also. He kind of looks like Walter Cronkite, but he's not. This is David McCullough. And he's on PBS all the time doing this or that. Americans in Paris, The Great Journey. This talks about all the different Americans throughout time who went to Paris to learn Enlightenment, art, science, all those things. Everybody from Ben Franklin, Samuel B. Morse, James Fenimore Cooper, there's a lot of musicians and medical doctors and stuff that went from the United States in the 1700s and 1800s to Paris specifically to become cultured, and how they brought that all back to the United States. It's a pretty interesting book. The Wright Brothers. This is another dynamite classic David McCullough history novel. This, of course, talks about the Wright Brothers and their quest to become the first men to build an airplane and fly it. And this documents that in very, very, it's almost like an adventure novel. It's just, these guys are on a quest, and you want them to succeed. And it's almost like we think of flight now. People can just get in a wingsuit and jump off of a cliff and fly. You've seen it on YouTube. And to think that looks so simple. But they didn't know about that stuff back then. They were building planes that looked like that. They got them up in the air. They'd probably shit themselves if they saw a wingsuit guy. Oh my God. And then the last one, The Pioneers. This, of course, about man's exploration of the Western United States. All the time, it starts out, with the Spanish conquistadors, coming up through South America. And then, all the people that, pre-Lewis and Clark even, that explored the West and opened up the West. I live in the West. So this is a good book, too. This is his most recent one that came out. He doesn't write a lot. About every 5 years, a new David McCullough book comes out. That's why there's not a whole lot of them in the world. That being said, this is a pretty good collection. I know there's a few. There's one he wrote about the Johnstown flood, which I do not have, which I've always wanted to get because I've been interested in the Johnstown flood ever since I watched the All the Right Moves with Tom Cruise, which was filmed in Johnstown, Pennsylvania. That's literally... Oh, and he also did a biography of Truman. So I don't have those two. I don't have the Johnstown flood or the Truman biography. But, I got the rest of them. So anyway, that is my entire collection of David McCullough nonfiction books. I love them. They're great. He is a super good writer.